Imagine that while you sleep peacefully, some of the most powerful people in the world are investing millions, or even billions, in true underground palaces. Strange, isn't it? What do they know that we don't? Maybe you think it's just paranoia, but what if it's not? As unprecedented climatic events transform the planet and global threats like pandemics and wars grow increasingly imminent, the feeling that something monumental is coming is almost impossible to ignore. And the most curious part is that these signs were mentioned long ago, in places you might not even imagine. Yes, some of today's concerns, like underground hideouts, seem directly connected to ancient biblical texts. If this sounds crazy, brace yourself. The reality we are living today has more connections to these prophecies than you might think. But the question remains, are we looking in the right place for security? Is the answer to what's coming found in concrete shelters or something much greater? In this video, you'll not only discover what's happening, but also what you can do to truly prepare. Have you ever stopped to think about how nature has been sending us clear signals, almost like a cry for help? Snow in the Sahara Desert, a place known for its scorching heat, is the kind of event that even the most skeptical person would find thought-provoking. This extreme transformation is not just a spectacle to admire, but a screaming message that the planet is changing in ways we humans can barely keep up with. Just look around. Unexpected floods, suffocating heat waves, and storms that appear out of nowhere. So, are we ready to face this new reality? Now imagine how these changes impact people's daily lives, even those living far from the epicenters of these events. Think of a farmer who, without warning, sees their crops destroyed by torrential rain, or the resident of a big city who suddenly has to deal with floods and power outages. And what about you? Have you considered what you would do if these events came to your doorstep? Perhaps it's time to learn how to protect your home, your family, and, most importantly, rethink habits that contribute to this climatic chaos. But do you know what's even more intriguing? How small actions can make a big difference. Imagine replacing car trips with a bike for short distances, or even starting a vertical garden on your apartment balcony. These are simple but powerful changes that show how individual actions contribute to a collective impact. And this leads us to another fascinating question. How some people, faced with global uncertainty, are seeking extreme solutions to ensure their survival. That's exactly what we're going to discuss next. Have you ever heard the saying that those in power don't let opportunities slip by? While many of us are still trying to understand what's happening with the climate, billionaires are one step ahead, or rather, below the surface. The idea of building bunkers, these true underground palaces, might seem like something out of a science fiction movie, but it's pure reality. They spare no expense. Self-sufficient energy systems, state-of-the-art air filtration, and even private cinemas. You can almost imagine it. Sipping a cocktail in a subterranean pool while the world outside faces its storms. But don't think these shelters are just an eccentric luxury. The motivation behind them goes far beyond comfort. We're talking about people who scrutinize global trends with a magnifying glass and see what many of us prefer to ignore. Pandemics, armed conflicts, and natural disasters are just some of the scenarios driving them to invest millions, and in some cases, billions, in these projects. And here lies a powerful reflection. Do they know something we don't? Or is it simply fear of the unknown driving them to protect their wealth and their lives? Now, imagine if all of us had the chance to prepare like this. Of course, most don't have the millions required to build a luxury bunker, but can't we learn something from this mindset? After all, planning for the future and thinking about safe alternatives isn't exclusive to the super rich. Speaking of planning, some say these movements were mentioned long ago. And in a place that might surprise you, shall we explore that? It's curious how ancient stories can connect so much to today, isn't it? The Bible, for instance, makes surprising mentions of underground hideouts. In Isaiah and Revelation, there are passages about people seeking refuge in caves and holes in the ground to escape imminent catastrophes. Does it seem like a coincidence that this idea comes alive today with billionaires building bunkers? Perhaps not. These descriptions, though written thousands of years ago, resonate with almost eerie accuracy in modern times. And look, we're not just talking about metaphors. Some scholars believe the passages about hideouts have both literal and symbolic interpretations. Literally, we see shelters built into rocks, just as described. Symbolically, it could be a warning about humanity's vain attempts to escape the consequences of their own actions. It's almost a philosophical reflection. To what extent can fortunes and technology offer protection against the inevitable? The Bible seems to insist on one point: no human structure can compete with divine strength. This makes us think, are these movements just a reflection of human fear of losing control? Or are we unconsciously recreating a script that has already been written? The relationship between faith, fear, and the quest for security is fascinating and continues to shape behaviors. If the threats they fear are as real as the biblical passages suggest, it's worth diving deeper into these potential dangers the future holds. If history teaches us anything, it's that threats change their form but never disappear. Today, we're dealing with a menu of risks that seems straight out of a Hollywood thriller. Deadlier pandemics, cyber attacks capable of taking down the internet, and even solar storms that could wipe out entire power grids. It's not an exaggeration to consider the impact this would have. Imagine a world without electricity, no internet, no refrigeration for food, hospitals in collapse. Frightening, isn't it? That's precisely the scenario many experts are warning about. And that's not all. Global conflicts, like the constant tension between major powers, increase the risk of a third world war. The consequences, devastating, not only for those at the center of the conflict, but also for those living on the margins who depend on economic and social stability. It's like a domino effect. One imbalance is enough for chaos to spread rapidly. At this point, preparation is not just necessary, it's inevitable. Do we have a real sense of how quickly our lives could change? The most unsettling thing is that these threats are not abstract. The evidence is all around us. Recent pandemics, the increase in cyber attacks, and the escalation of international tensions. And what do? Often, we go on living as if everything is normal. But the truth is, the time to act is running out. And in the face of so much uncertainty, an essential question arises. Where should we seek safety? For many, the answer lies not in technology or wealth, but in something greater and more enduring. In the face of so many frightening scenarios, it's natural for the heart to fill with doubt and even fear. But for those who place their trust in God, there is a different perspective, an invitation to peace amidst chaos. The Bible is clear in stating that nothing in this world happens without His knowledge. It's comforting to remember that even in the face of pandemics, wars, and catastrophes, God promises to be alongside His children. Psalm 91, for example, is a powerful reminder. No harm will overtake you. No disaster will come near your tent. And it is in this context that the pastor in the video emphasizes the importance of placing faith above wealth or technologies. After all, bunkers, no matter how robust, cannot offer absolute protection. Faith, on the other hand, transcends. It gives us the strength to face any challenge and the certainty that, regardless of circumstances, we are supported. It's like building your fortress, but not with concrete and steel, rather with God's love and promises. For those seeking this security, it's worth reflecting. What have you done to strengthen your faith? This vision is not a call to passivity but to action, an action that starts within each of us. The Bible encourages us to live prepared but without despair. The big question is, are you living as if this world is all there is? Or are your eyes fixed on eternity? The invitation here is to think beyond the material. And this reflection leads us to consider, isn't it time to rethink priorities and place what truly matters at the center of our lives? So, what will you do with everything you've just learned? The changes around us are real, and there's no time to wait for answers to come from elsewhere. It's time to take the reins and decide how you want to prepare, not just for the challenges of this world, but for what truly matters. Are you focusing on what is temporary or investing in what is eternal? Think carefully. Does your security come from concrete or from your faith? The Bible teaches us that living with purpose and confidence in God is the best way to face challenges, no matter how daunting they are. So, how about starting to reflect on your priorities today? Are you building a spiritual bunker to protect your soul and your peace? Ask yourself this question. And more, Share this message with your loved ones, because you never know who might need to hear this now. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to keep learning and being inspired. Together, we can face any storm and find strength where we least expect it. After all, what truly protects us is something much greater. So, are you ready for the change?